Sorry to disappoint you.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Everything I possess, well, now they are gone. They are Where can I go to? What can I bring?
Everywhere I go, people filming me. I'm so tired. Yes, it's true. I play Friends of the Void. I'm the drummer. Get off my dick, yo. My name is Michael Oxendine. Play drums. I grew up listening to Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer, Testament, stuff like that. My first album ever was Alice Cooper's Constrictor. Yeah, so metal and rock, but I like a little bit of everything, to be honest. Funny enough, I didn't really listen to Sabbath much growing up. I listened to a little bit of Ozzy, but I really didn't start listening to Sabbath deeply until I started playing in this band. So it was kind of cool the way it kind of came together because I love how Bill Ward plays drums. He's obviously metal and rock, but he's very jazzy, very hip hoppy. Is that a word, hip hoppy? And his beats, which I play just the way I play. I play in an original band too, and kind of my own playing. Actually mimics his a lot. It's kind of rock meets hip hop meets pop meets jazz kind of feel, but definitely rooted in metal and rock. So I love Bill Ward. He's arguably my favorite drummer. Definitely on the Mount Rushmore for me. But yeah, so late bloomer with Sabbath, but fucking I love all the early shit, all the early Ozzy stuff. Can't get into like the Dio and that era, but so for me it's all about Ozzy too. That's what else is nice about this band. It's just Ozzy, so it hits the sweet spot for me. And now I'm a huge fan. T-shirt. Sabbath didn't even figure this interview. I'm just happy to be wearing it. That's how real my dedication is.
Right on. First time you heard Sabbath, remember?
Back in the 70s, as the music was coming out, they played Cal Jam. I didn't go to that show, but I remember the day and hearing about what was going down. That was in Ontario, I think. Sabbath played one of those Cal Jam shows, and I got to see Sabbath back in the 70s. I think it was the Never Say Die tour, which would have been the last thing they ever did with Ozzy until recent years anyway. And I've seen them a bunch of times in recent years because I know that they're done now. You can't see them anymore, which is another reason I like this band so much.
All right, who are you?
Yeah, what's your last name anyway? I don't even know.
Starts with the J
Johnson?
and Johnson.
Jeff Johnson. I used to have a friend named Jeff Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not related to Eric or any of those other people.
Right.
And if you probably look me up, you'll probably find some other people instead of me.
True. Me too.
What bands have you been in?
Bunch. I started out in playing folk guitar for my mom.
like in our church class or something.
Folk.
Yeah, dong jing jing,
Wow.
dong jing jing. When I played the kazoo and all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
Then I was in like my first real live performance probably was in the Grossmont Guitar Ensemble playing in old folks homes. Super nervous playing sitting in the back. Did that for a while. Did a few bands here and there. Was in this band Decameron, and we had about 20 people go through. Never played a gig. That was about 3 years. Joined this band Highlander, original rock band. I was in that for about 10 years. Played a lot of shows. We did El Centro, Air Force Base. That was pretty fun. So we did like 200-300 shows
Wow.
Yeah.
over time. Did about 10 demos. Tried out for a bunch of other bands. Was in this Rainbow Dio fan tribute band for a while. And I was in San Diego State music program, did a lot of performances in there. Studied classical guitar. And then was in another Dio band for a while. We never played out. So then, why to answer this band? Sabbath. I was familiar with the stuff, but some good guitar work. So Sabbath has a certain depth to it. So it's not just like, hey baby, I want to go in your bedroom kind of thing, like a lot of like some of the superficial 80 metals band do, like and then that's the song.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has a little more depth, and
It's not Kiss.
Kiss has a certain funness to it, but it's not intellectually stimulating.
It's all about banging chicks. That's all they sing about. Period.
Well, they sing about cold gin and hard times and some other stuff too.
Yeah, I suppose. Depends who's writing the tunes. Those sound like Ace Frehley tunes.
Peter Chris can go Beth, and he's finished with doing drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
Is their only number one hit?
Of course.
The worst song ever, probably. But
When did you first hear Sabbath?
I first heard them a long time ago. Somebody played them, and I thought they were actually boring. It's like, oh, what's this slow crap? They played Paranoid. I'm like, this is too slow.
Yeah.
So later on, through like Ozzy and Dio, I probably got into the Ozzy stuff, and then some of the Dio, and then I went back and discovered it, and then I listened to a lot of the 90s stuff too, like Cross Purposes and stuff like that.
with Dio?
No, that was with Tony Martin.
Oh,
It's
the bald guy?
I think he is bald. He has that kind of Rob Halford look.
He shaves his head. I don't know. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
But people just thought he was copying Dio, so they didn't give him enough credit.
Right.
It wasn't as creative and all that stuff. Anything else?
Doesn't take an hour to set up, and this ain't my first rodeo here in Winston's, my friend.
Not mine either, man. I work here every fucking day.
It's called Supernaut, late boy. You're late.
No one told me to record it, but it doesn't matter.
Late sound guys for the song.
All right. My name is Brian Baxter. I told you to stay up here. No. The first time I think whatever I heard me some Sabbath was on probably my dad's records, something like that. Uh-oh. Mike's gonna run by real quick. He's got to do like that. The reason I joined this band, or where we're talking about how many bands you've been in, what kind of bands. Probably been in several hundred bands going back into the 80s even. I think the first band was called the Ceramic Grandmas, and this metalhead kid from Santa Rosa moved in next door to my mom's house, so we started hanging out and playing some music together. I think that was the first one. So there's been hundreds since then, some of them memorable, some of them not so memorable, I don't know. But took a couple years off of just being a singer and started doing my own thing, recording my own music, learning how to play all the instruments. I went to the LA recording school down in Hollywood and tried that. Was in music publishing for a while, so I got to look at the back end, the business end, and all that stuff, where the money's made and who cuts the checks and where they go. So that was interesting, and moved to Oceanside a couple years ago and just started looking for somebody to jam with. I was wanting to get back into the soup again, and saw the ad for, we're a Black Sabbath cover band looking for our Ozzy. Is that you? And something just hackles raised up, and I said, yeah, man, I think that's cool. The first time I heard him here, right in this spot we're very close to, just hair rose up, man. I was like, wow, they sounded so good, and I could see the possibility, and hooked instantly. Came back the next week, and I think it's been like that, 3 years now. So
No relation to Ray and Dave from the Kinks. Always loved Sabbath. Favorite band growing up in the 70s. They're not around anymore, so I put this band together. Haven't been in too many bands, actually. I was in an originals band back in the 90s called Paste. And our claim to fame was we got to open for Quiet Riot at a place which is now called Cane's in Mission Beach. It was called Chillers back then.
A lot of big bands played there.
Yeah, Quiet Riot.
I saw Morbid Angel there.
Really? Yeah, they have national acts playing there.
Uh-huh.
For sure. I don't know how we got that gig. Some promoter just called me and said, "You want to open for Quiet Riot?" We're like, "Yeah." Meanwhile, we were nothing like that kind of music. We were a total alternative band of the time.
Right on.
This is like 1995. I just grew up jamming cover tunes with my buddy in LA, and finally wanted to get in a real band and do some originals. And now, as the years have gone by, I no longer want to push my originals on people. I just want to play music that I like, like this band here. That's all I got. That's all I have. What he does.
Room over there.
So we're a 5-piece. That's just the bottom line. I'm just not the lead guitarist that Jeff is. So I know it looks odd, but it is what it is. It enables me to.
Doesn't look odd. Jeez.
Well, it enables us to also do the doubling parts that Tony does on record, where you hear 3 to 5 guitars going at once. So sometimes when he's playing lead, I can kind of double it, do my own thing, and it kind of sounds like the record.
So I'm Uncle Paulie Bear doing bass, and started out in Texas doing some alternative stuff and country, and got to do some thrash in Florida with a band called Gone with the Flesh. And then I did some cover bands and some original stuff in California, but going back to the roots, I saw these dudes ad like a year ago, and I just didn't have the bandwidth to do the band at that time. I had a lot going on, had a couple other bands, and but I always wanted to do my own thing, and then a Sabbath cover band. So me and my cousin Rodney we were always going to do the Sabbath band when I got out of the military, but he passed away in 2015. So we're going to do the record for the 50th anniversary and in memory of my bro. And I hope you like it.
First record's is shit. Right out the gate.
I own it on vinyl.
Fucking, that's a good vinyl to have.
That's where they combined all the elements. Jazz, the rock.
It's a giant masturbation fest for Tony Iommi, if you ask me.